April 1945. Northern Germany. The war is collapsing in real time. Roads clogged with refugees, burnt-out trucks, and men walking east with no weapons and no orders. Private Carl Fischer, 22, former clerk turned infantryman, marches with his hands raised, boots sinking into wet spring mud. He has not fired his rifle in 3 days. He no longer carries it. British soldiers wave him forward with sharp, controlled gestures. Lee Enfield rifles, clean uniforms, calm faces. This is not chaos. This is the end. Carl is processed quickly. Dog tags taken. Name recorded. Rank marked with a pencil. He expects shouting, beatings, revenge. None comes. He is loaded onto a truck with other prisoners, older men, boys with hollow eyes, a Luftwaffe mechanic still smelling of all. The truck moves north, away from the front, away from the sound of guns that has shaped every thought for 6 years. The camp sits on flat land near a former training ground. Barbed wire, guard towers, British flags snapping in cold wind. Carl notices something strange almost immediately. Women, they are inside the wire, not nurses, not civilians seeking food. They wear German uniforms, some tailored, some ill-fitting, auxiliary service insignia, hair pulled tight, faces pale with shock and exhaustion. A few clutch small suitcases. One woman stares directly at Carl as he passes, her expression not hostile, not afraid, confused. Carl has heard rumors. Female radio operators, clerks, SS auxiliaries. He never believed they would end up here, behind wire, same as him. Inside the barracks, the smell hits first. Damp wood, wet wool, fear. Carl sits on a bunk and listens. Guards speak quietly outside. Somewhere, a woman begins to cry, then stops abruptly, as if afraid crying itself is forbidden. That night, rain drums on the tin roof. Carl lies awake, replaying fragments of the past year orders he followed. Orders he didn't question. He tells himself he was a small man in a huge machine. Everyone says that now. At dawn, prisoners are lined up, men on one side, women on the other. A British officer steps forward holding a folder thick with papers. His tone is calm, precise. These documents were captured intact, he says. They concern personnel files from elite Nazi units, SS, intelligence, internal security. The interpreter repeats it in German. Carl feels a tightening in his chest. Files mean names. Names mean connections. Connections mean guilt spreading outward like fire. The officer continues, some of you are not soldiers. Some of you are more than that. The women shift. One drops her suitcase. No one helps her pick it up. Carl looks again at the woman who stared at him yesterday. She avoids his eyes now. The officer opens the folder, and everything in the camp seems to lean forward, waiting. The British officer flips open the folder. Paper edges flutter in the damp air like nervous hands. Carl Fischer watches the women across the yard. Some stand rigid, trained posture refusing to break. Others sway slightly, as if the ground itself is no longer solid. These files, the officer says, were meant to be destroyed. The interpreter's voice cracks just enough to betray the weight of the sentence. Carl understands immediately what that means. Someone failed. Someone ran out of time. Someone believed the war would last one more week. A name is read, then another. Female names. A young woman steps forward, her boots sinking into mud. She wears the uniform of the SS Helfer, an administrative auxiliary. Her face is tight, controlled. The officer reads her file aloud. Posting dates, units, duties, radio intercepts, translation work, internal correspondence. The phrase lands hard. Carl feels a strange, unwanted relief. It is not his name. The officer continues. The folder seems endless. Each name peels away another layer of denial. These are not nurses. These women work close to power, close to orders, close to what everyone now pretends not to have known. Carl remembers nights in barracks when rumors drifted like smoke about camps, about transports, about special actions. He remembers laughing it off. Not my concern. Not my unit. A woman near the front begins to shake. Not violently. Just enough to be visible. Her eyes dart between the British officer and the wire behind her, calculating distances that don't matter anymore. Then a name cuts through the air like a blade. Anna Weiss. Carl looks up sharply. It is the woman who stared at him on the first day. She steps forward slowly. She is taller than most, shoulders squared, chin lifted as if daring the world to strike first. Her uniform is immaculate compared to the others. Someone who believed rules still mattered. The officer reads, assigned to an SS administrative office attached to an intelligence section. Duties, records management, personnel tracking, transfer coordination. Carl's stomach tightens. Transfer coordination is not harmless work. Everyone knows that now. Anna does not protest. She does not cry. She simply listens, jaw clenched so tightly a muscle jumps beneath her skin. The officer closes the folder halfway. There will be interviews, he says. Separate. Detailed. Guards begin moving prisoners back toward the barracks. The line breaks. Voices rise in whispers, then fall again under the weight of armed silence. As Carl turns, Anna's eyes meet his again. This time there is something new in them. Not fear. Expectation. That night, Carl cannot sleep. Rain has stopped. The camp is quiet in a way that feels temporary, like the pause before artillery. He realizes something with a cold clarity. The files are only the beginning, and when the questions start, no one inside this wire will be untouched. The interviews begin before sunrise. Carl is pulled from the barracks by a British corporal who speaks careful German. No shouting, no insults. That somehow makes it worse. He is led into a former classroom, wooden desks, cracked chalkboard, windows blacked out with paint. A single table stands in the center. 2 chairs, a lamp. An intelligence officer waits, sleeves rolled, papers neatly stacked. He does not introduce himself. Private Fisher, he says, checking a card. Infantry. Eastern Front, then reassigned West. Carl nods. Did you ever work with SS administrative units? No. Did you ever transport prisoners? No. The questions come evenly, methodically. Carl answers truthfully, or what he tells himself is truth. The officer watches his face more than his words. After 30 minutes, Carl is dismissed. As he steps outside, he sees Anna being escorted toward the same building. Up close, she looks older than he thought. Lines at the eyes. The war etched into her skin differently than his, but just as deeply. She pauses when she sees him. Guards allow it, perhaps curiosity, perhaps cruelty. You were infantry, she says quietly. Yes. You fought. Yes. A pause stretches between them, heavy with things neither wants to say. They think we knew everything, she says. Carl does not answer. He thinks of files, of lists, of trains leaving on time. Anna studies his face, searching for judgment. Finding none, she straightens. They will ask you about us, she says. What you saw, what you heard. I don't know anything, Carl replies. She almost smiles. Almost. Her interview lasts hours. When she returns, her composure is gone. Her hands shake as she fumbles with her coat buttons. She sits on the bunk opposite Carl and stares at the floor. They have documents, she says finally. Copies of orders. Memos with my initials. What kind of orders? Carl asks, though he already knows. Personnel reallocations, she answers. Clerical language. Clean words. Clean words. Carl feels a surge of anger he does not fully understand. At her. At himself. At a system that turned murder into paperwork. They showed me a transport list, Anna continues. Asked me where the people went. And I said I didn't know. Her voice cracks. Because I didn't want to know. Silence presses in. That evening, a British sergeant pins a notice to the barracks wall. Additional files recovered. More names to be reviewed. More interrogations. Whispers ripple through the camp. Some men curse the SS, others curse the British. No one curses the war anymore. It has already taken everything it can. Carl lies awake again, staring at the ceiling. He realizes the interrogations are not about punishment alone. They are about truth. And truth, he knows now, does not stop at uniforms or gender or rank. It moves outward, relentless. 3 days pass, measured not by time but by names. Each morning, the British guards post new lists. Each afternoon, another group disappears into the interview rooms. The camp changes. Men stop speaking freely. Women sit apart, backs straight, eyes forward, as if discipline might still protect them. Carl is questioned again. This time, the officer brings a different folder. You were stationed near Bremen in late 1944, he says. Yes. There was an SS administrative office 2 kilometers from your billet. Carl hesitates. He remembers the building now. Brick. Always guarded. Trucks arriving at night. I saw it, he admits. Did you ever speak to personnel there? Carl thinks of Anna, of her steady voice. No. The officer notes something down. The sound of pencil on paper is louder than any gun Carl has heard. Outside, he finds Anna standing near the wire. She is watching British trucks unload crates, documents, stamped folders, bundles of files tied with string. They keep finding more, she says. Yes. She turns to him, anger flashing briefly through her exhaustion. They act as if we designed the system. Carl almost laughs, but stops himself. Someone did. She looks away. That evening, a woman collapses during roll call. She is small, barely 20. Guards catch her before she hits the ground. A British medic kneels beside her, checks her pulse, calls for a stretcher. No one moves to help except him, The sight unsettles Carl more than cruelty would have. Compassion feels like an accusation. Anna watches silently. They think we're monsters, she says. Carl answers without thinking. They think you're human. She studies him, surprised. And you? I think we all made choices, he says, some louder than others. That night, shouting erupts from the women's barracks. Carl sits up, heart pounding. Guards rush past. Orders are barked in English. A door slams. By morning, one bunk is empty. No explanation is given. The lists go up again. Anna's name is not on it. Instead, Carl sees something that chills him more. A new category typed beneath the names. Witnesses. His name is there. He finds the officer later that day. What does this mean? It means, the officer says evenly, that history is being written. And you are part of it. Carl walks back to the barracks feeling exposed, flayed open. Being a witness is not safety. It is responsibility. Anna sits on her bunk, staring at her hands. They're moving some of us, she says, to another camp, further west. Why? She shakes her head. Different classifications. That night, rain returns. Water seeps through the roof, dripping onto the floor between them. Carl realizes something with a sinking certainty. If Anna is transferred, he may never see her again. And whatever truth the files contain, it will follow them both into rooms with locked doors, into records that will outlive them, into a future neither can control. The transfer begins at dawn. British trucks idle beyond the wire, engines low and steady. Names are called with clipped precision. Women step forward carrying what little they have: blankets, papers, a single photograph folded to many times. No one explains where they are going. The uncertainty is deliberate. Anna stands rigid as her name is finally spoken. Carl feels it like a blow. He steps forward instinctively, then stops. Guards are already moving her toward the gate. She walks without resistance, spine straight, face composed like a mask practiced over years. As she passes him, she speaks without turning her head. If they ask you, she says, barely audible, tell them the truth you can live with. What truth is that? Carl whispers. She pauses for half a second. Just enough. That paperwork has weight. Then she is gone. The trucks roll out, tires crunching over gravel. Dust hangs in the air long after they disappear. The women's barracks feel hollow now, stripped of voices, stripped of tension that had at least been shared. Carl is summoned again before noon. This room is different, smaller, to British officers this time. A map on the wall with pins marking locations across Germany and Poland. Red pins, too many. Private Fisher, one officer begins. You are listed as a witness regarding SS administrative operations near Bremen. Carl nods, throat dry. You will answer clearly, the other officer says, not to protect yourself, to establish facts. They slide a document across the table. A typed transport order. Dates, destinations. Carl recognizes the letterhead. The building, the trucks at night. Did you ever see who worked there? The officer asks. Carl hesitates. Faces flash through his mind: uniforms passing windows, silhouettes under lamps. One face stands out. Yes, he says finally. Some of them were women. The pencil pauses. Names. Carl swallows. Saying her name would fix her in ink forever. Not saying it would make him complicit in something else. I didn't know their names, he says. It is true. And not. The officer studies him for a long moment. Did you understand what those transports were? Carl closes his eyes. He thinks of clean words, of lists, of trains leaving on time. I understood enough, he says. The officer writes that down. When Carl is dismissed, his legs feel weak. Outside, a rumor spreads like smoke. More files recovered. Not burned, not buried, hidden in a salt mine. Names that were supposed to vanish are coming back. That evening, Carl sits alone on his bunk. The space where Anna sat feels louder than conversation. He realizes the war has shifted shape. It no longer roars. It whispers, and whispers last longer. As lights dim, a British guard stops at the door. Fisher, he says, be ready tomorrow. For what? The guard hesitates. A formal statement. The door closes. Carl lies back, staring into darkness, knowing that tomorrow his words will no longer belong only to him. The formal statement is taken in silence. Carl sits at a wooden table with a single sheet of paper in front of him. A British legal officer waits, pen poised, eyes steady. This is no longer intelligence work. This is record. State your full name, the officer says. Carl does. His voice sounds unfamiliar to his own ears. Everything you say will be entered into official files. The officer continues. These files will be used in future proceedings. Future. The word carries more weight than any sentence. The war may be ending, but something else is just beginning. Carl speaks carefully. He describes the building near Bremen, the trucks, the guards. He avoids speculation, sticks to what he saw. He does not mention Anna by name. He does mention women in uniform, clerical staff moving in and out, carrying folders, stamping documents. Did you understand the purpose of the transports? The officer asks. Carl pauses. This is the line. On one side is ignorance. On the other, responsibility. I understood they were not normal, he says. I understood people did not come back. The pen scratches across paper. When it is over, Carl's hand aches from gripping the edge of the table. He signs his name. The officer folds the paper and slides it into a file already thick with testimony. Outside, the camp feels different again. Quieter, heavier. Men avoid his eyes. Word travels fast. Witnesses are not trusted by anyone. That afternoon, a new group arrives. SS men this time, higher rank, cleaner uniforms. Their confidence drains quickly when they see the wire. The guards, the folders. Carl watches one of them laugh softly at first, as if this is a misunderstanding. By evening, the man is silent. Near sunset, Carl hears Anna's voice for the first time in days. He turns sharply. She is not there, only memory. He wonders where she is now. Another camp, another room, another table with a lamp and papers. He imagines her being asked the same questions, but from the other side. That night, rain gives way to fog. Searchlights cut pale cones through it, making the camp feel unreal, suspended between worlds. A British officer stops Carl during evening count. Your statement will be cross-referenced, he says. Others have described similar operations. Carl understands what that means. His words are aligning with others. The picture is sharpening. Before lights out, a whisper moves through the barracks. Trials, international courts, public hearings. Men who once shouted orders may soon stand silently while their past is read aloud. Carl lies awake, heart pounding. He realizes the true fear is not punishment, it is clarity. Because once everything is clear, there is nowhere left to hide, not behind rank, not behind obedience, not behind silence, and somewhere beyond the wire. Anna Weiss is facing that same clarity alone. Fog clings to the camp through the morning, thick enough to dull sound. Orders feel muffled. Footsteps seem to come from nowhere. Carl senses movement beneath the stillness, files traveling, statements being compared, timelines locking into place. He is taken to a different building just after breakfast. Inside, the room is larger. 3 officers this time. One wears the insignia of a legal advisor. Another flips through a binder already tagged with colored slips. The third watches Carl without blinking. Your testimony matches several others, the senior officer says, including statements from administrative personnel. Carl's pulse spikes. From where? The officer glances down. A separate holding facility. Carl understands immediately. Anna. They show him a document. Not in order this time. A chart. Names connected by lines. Offices. Dates. Transfers. The war reduced to geometry. This individual, the officer says, tapping a name Carl recognizes, claims clerical staff were unaware of final destinations. Carl says nothing. Do you agree? The officer asks. Carl stares at the paper. He remembers Anna's voice. I didn't want to know. I believe, Carl says slowly, they knew enough to ask questions, and chose not to. The room is silent except for the ticking of a wall clock. The officer writes. When Carl returns to the barracks, tension has sharpened into hostility. A man spits near his boots. Another turns his back deliberately. Witness is becoming a dangerous word. That afternoon, a British truck arrives with a red cross painted on its side. A medic steps out, followed by 2 officers. Someone is being moved. Whispers ripple. Suicide attempt. Breakdown. Transfer for trial. Carl watches as a woman is escorted out of a nearby building. Not Anna, but someone who stood beside her during roll call weeks ago. Her eyes are empty. Her hands tremble uncontrollably. Reality is no longer theoretical. At dusk, Carl receives a message written on a scrap of paper, passed quietly by a guard who avoids eye contact. You may be called to identify personnel tomorrow. Carl reads it twice. Identification is different from testimony. It is final. That night, he dreams of trains, endless platforms, names echoing down tunnels. He wakes soaked in sweat. Morning comes hard and fast. He is led into a room with chairs arranged in a line. A curtain covers the far wall. The officers are present again, faces unreadable. Stand when instructed. One says. The curtain pulls back. Several women stand under harsh light, thinner, paler, exhausted. Among them, Anna Weiss. Her eyes meet Carl's instantly. No surprise, only understanding. An officer speaks. Identify any individuals you recognize from the Bremen facility. Time slows. Carl's breath feels too loud, too visible. Anna does not look away. She gives a single, almost imperceptible nod. Not pleading, acknowledging. Carl opens his mouth, and the weight of every word he has ever spoken presses down at once. Carl's mouth goes dry. The room smells faintly of disinfectant and wet wool. The women stand motionless, hands at their sides, eyes fixed forward except Anna. She keeps her gaze on him, steady, unblinking. Take your time, the officer says. Time is the one thing Carl no longer has. He looks down the line. Faces blur, then sharpen. He recognizes two women clearly. He remembers them carrying folders through the Bremen office corridor, laughing quietly at something he never heard. He remembers Anna at a desk near a window, stamping papers with practiced speed. I recognize. 3, Carl says. The officer nods. Indicate them. Carl raises his hand. His finger trembles despite his effort to control it. He points to the first woman, then the second. Finally, Anna. She does not flinch. She exhales slowly, as if she has been holding her breath for weeks. The officer makes notes. Another officer steps forward, dismisses the women one by one. As Anna turns to leave, her eyes meet Carl's again. There is no anger there, only resolve. The curtain closes. Carl sinks into the chair, legs weak. He expects to feel relief. Instead, he feels hollow. Back in the barracks, the reaction is immediate. Someone shoves him as he passes. Another man hisses, traitor. A third refuses to share bread at dinner. Carl eats alone. That night, the fog returns thicker than before. Somewhere in the camp, a woman screams short, sharp, cut off too quickly. No one moves. No one asks. The next day, a notice is posted. Selected personnel to be transferred for formal judicial proceedings. Anna Weiss's name is on the list. So is Carl Fischer's. Not as an accused, as a witness for the prosecution. A British officer explains it plainly. You will be transported separately. You will testify about what you saw. Nothing more. And after, Carl asks. The officer hesitates. That depends. They leave at dawn in different vehicles. Carl watches Anna from across the yard as guards load her truck. She looks smaller now, swallowed by her coat. She does not look back this time. The journey is long. The road is lined with ruins and white flags. Civilians stare at the trucks in silence. No cheers, no hatred, just exhaustion. When Carl arrives at the holding facility, he sees flags he has never seen flown together before. Allied insignia, legal banners, temporary buildings rising from fields like something unnatural. This is no longer a camp. It is a crossroads. That night, Carl is given a cot in a quiet room. He lies awake, listening to distant engines, distant voices in languages he barely understands. He realizes the war has finally ended for soldiers, but for witnesses and for the women in those files, it is only beginning. The holding facility operates with a precision Carl has never seen in war. Guards move by schedule. Lights switch on and off at exact minutes. Papers are logged, stamped, copied. Every word spoken inside these walls feels permanent. Carl is no longer a prisoner in the usual sense. He is something else, kept, protected, and watched. He is briefed before dawn. A British legal officer lays out the rules. You will answer only what is asked. You will not speculate. You will not editorialize. You will speak to facts you personally observed. Carl nods. His hands are steady now. That frightens him. The courtroom is temporary, assembled from wood and canvas, but the weight inside it is immense. Flags hang behind the bench. Interpreters sit ready. Stenographers prepare their machines. Anna Weiss is brought in with the other accused women. Carl barely recognizes her. Her uniform has been replaced with plain clothing. Her hair is looser, streaked with gray that was not there weeks ago. She walks carefully, as if conserving strength. When she sits, she folds her hands in her lap and stares straight ahead. The charges are read: aiding and abetting crimes against humanity, participation in deportation logistics, administrative support for unlawful transfers. The words are clinical. The effect is devastating. Carl is called. He steps forward, swears the oath. The room feels too large, too silent. Describe the facility near Bremen, the prosecutor says. Carl does. Brick building. Guards, trucks, night activity. Who work there? SS administrative personnel, Carl answers, including female auxiliaries. Anna does not react. Did you understand the purpose of their work? Carl hesitates. Every eye is on him now, not just Anna's. I understood, he says, that the work enabled the movement of people who did not return. A murmur moves through the room. The defense rises. Their voice is sharp, controlled. Did you ever see my client harm anyone directly? Carl looks at Anna. For the first time, she looks back, not pleading, not accusing, Simply present. No, Carl says. Did she ever speak of extermination? Of killing? No. The defense nods, satisfied. The prosecutor stands again. Did her work make those acts possible? Carl's throat tightens. This is the question that matters. Yes, he says. The word echoes longer than it should. Anna closes her eyes. When Carl steps down, his legs tremble. He does not look back. Outside, air rushes into his lungs like he has been underwater too long. He realizes testimony is a weapon that leaves no visible wound, but never stops hurting. As evening falls, the accused are led away. Carl catches one final glimpse of Anna. She turns her head slightly, just enough for him to see her lips move. He cannot hear the words, but he knows what they are. It's done. The doors close, and inside the courtroom, history keeps writing itself line by line, name by name, without mercy, without pause.